Right, okay guys, welcome to another 8-bit face-off kerfuffle, and this week we're taking a look at a very early arcade game released by Imagine Software. Now I'm probably right in saying this is probably about the only decent game that they actually released. I mean, Imagine were famously, they were very famous for basically hyping their own games beyond belief, and unfortunately the majority of them were absolutely awful. And yet, if you believe the hype, all the programmers, cleaners, everybody were driving about in sort of Ferraris and sports cars, and they effectively spent all the money very quickly and conversely went bust. So this is Arcadia. Now this is the Vic 21. This was programmed by David Lawson, I think it was, and released in 1982. Now it's quite a simple little game, but you know it's quite addictive and it is very challenging, as I'm ably demonstrating. Basically, you've got different waves. Now the enemies, you know, you'll see a time limit at the top there, which is counting down. Now there's a bit of strategy involved here, because what happens is when the time gets to 0, all the baddies quickly sort of descend down the screen towards you. So what you want to do is you want to try and leave just a single baddie when it gets to 0. If you kill the last baddie, then you'll get loads and loads of baddies, and trying to avoid them is next to impossible. This is actually pretty good. Movement is pretty good, sounds good, graphics are nice and colourful. But as you can see there, it is really difficult. The movement in this one is really twitchy, and you'll see there are a lot of bullets fall down, and you know you've just got to try and avoid them, which is easier said than done. Now what also makes it more difficult is the range of your bullets is quite limited, so you can't sit down at the bottom of the screen and fire up the way. You've got to kind of be quite close to the kind of middle of the screen to actually hit them, especially since they kind of start off at the top of the screen, so you've got to be quite far up the screen, which doesn't give you an awful lot of time to react and try and avoid getting hit, like I'm doing a good job of. I certainly don't remember the C64 one being this difficult. I mean, that was the one I did play back in the day. Although it's perfectly possible that it's just my reactions aren't what they were. I'm absolutely determined to get past this, which is easier said than done. No idea how many levels there were in this. I don't think I ever got particularly far. What the hell happened there? Why did he suddenly move up the way? I've never seen that before. But it's a very simplistic game, but it does feel like a kind of early arcade game. Right, here we go. Hey, right, okay, level 2. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the early kind of shoot 'em ups were kind of based on this type of game. You know, very simple rules. You know exactly what you've got to try and do. Right, okay, that is a tough one. That is the Vic 20. Right, on to this ZX Spectrum one. Again, this was programmed by Dave Lawson, and this again was released in 1982. Some some state-of-the-art presentation going on there. This was back in the day when basically one guy wrote everything. He probably did the bug testing as well. Now you can see there, this one is considerably easier. Don't need to speak too soon, but yeah. So what I don't want to do is destroy this bad guy, because if I do, they'll all appear and then they'll suddenly go woof. You'll see when it gets to 0, you'll just kind of fly down the screen. Coming up, there we go. He was kind of the side there. So level 2, yeah, that's infinitely easier. Nice detailed graphics, nice kind of use of colour as well. I mean, they're all kind of pretty much. Your spaceship, yeah, it's hard to tell actually. Is your spaceship monochrome or is it different colours? I think there's a bit of colour clash going on there. I like the little explosion as well, that's quite nice. Now, oh, I don't know what hit me there, no idea. It does look quite an easy game to play. I mean, it is easy to play, but it's difficult to master, if that makes any sense. Ah, right, there's a lot less baddies in this version compared to the Big 20. I think the fact that the movement is a wee bit smoother as well does make it a bit easier. So again, just try and avoid getting hit if you can. And again, when it gets down to 0, you'll see the wee guy, he'll just kind of fly down the screen. Zoop, there we go. Level 2. I mean, you know, it was a very, very basic game back in 1982, and more so now, you know, very, very, very straightforward. But like I says, I mean, Imagine did release a lot of games, and the majority of them were absolutely god awful. But this was one of the few exceptions. And trust me, games like this made Imagine an absolute fortune. Thing is, it was back in the day when, you know, people were desperate for software, so it didn't really matter how poor a game was. You know, the fact that you had a game to play, people would spend money. You didn't really think about whether a game was good or not. You just paid the money because, as far as you were concerned, you were getting like an arcade game to play in the house. And that was silly. Right, okay, damn it. Balls. But it's got that kind of gameplay which, whilst repetitive, it's really quick and it's really, really addictive actually. Right, anyway, that's the Spectrum one. On to the very last version. This is the C64. Now this is going to get a bonus point just for a nice title screen. And this one you can also pick what level you want to start. Now this version was programmed by Eugene Evans. Now if you don't know who he is, he was a young programmer for Imagine. The story has it, he actually owned it. It was either a Ferrari, a Lamborghini. They basically bought him a sports car. And the guy couldn't even drive, because that was just how much money they were actually making. I mean, they were just coining the money in. Now Eugene Jarvis is one of the few programmers to actually have a game, not so much a game, a level of a game dedicated to him, and that was a Manic Miner. Is it level 4 or level 5, I think it is, Eugene's Lair. That is based on this very programmer. There's a lot of kind of sprite flicking going on. I'm guessing it's probably because he didn't use sprites. I mean, the C64 could have, was it 8 sprites on screen now? I think there's more than 8 things moving there, so I'm assuming it must be kind of software sprites, something like that. What's interesting about this game as well is the graphics actually move over the, or under the scores, which you don't normally get. I do like the explosion, I have to say. Also quite like the font that they've picked. Like I said, in this one you can also change what level you want to start from, but I think part of the appeal of these games was just kind of actually naturally progressing to the next level without cheating. I want to get to the next level knowing that I've managed to do it myself. You'll see there's a lot of bullets in this version, which does make it tough. Right, try and not die if I can. But you'll see there's so many bullets. Ah, bollocks! So yeah, to kind of summarise, we've looked at the Vic 20, Spectrum and C64. Vic 20 is really nice. It is probably a bit too difficult. I mean, I don't know how many games I had when I was playing it for this video, but I simply could not get anywhere near getting to the second level. But graphics were nice, maybe not as kind of smoothest movement. Spectrum is really nice, probably the easiest one to play. Again, kind of monochrome graphics, but the graphics worked really well. C64 one, yeah, it's kind of got multicolour, it's probably the nicest looking one. Probably got the best sound as well. But you know what, I think I always associate this game as being a Spectrum game, so I think if you're going to play this game, stick with the ZX Spectrum, I would say. But you know, all three are decent versions. As always guys, thank you very much for watching.